Okay friends, to get started on your rear flex hose, you don't necessarily have to remove the wheel, but in case you are, go ahead and safely jack up the rear of the vehicle and then remove that wheel. Now underneath the center of the truck, we're going to come to the center flex hose and use some of these line crimpers. Go ahead and crimp this down, that way there it's going to restrict the flow of the brake fluid down to our flex hose. Now looking at the flex hose, I'm going to start removing it from the caliper itself. Let's remove this banjo bolt. Make sure you have a collection bucket under here to collect any of the fluid. Now let's come down to the other end of the flex hose and start removing this right here. It's a good idea to spray this with some penetrant, so hopefully you don't break your brake line. Just going to work this back and forth with the penetrant to help break it free. Now let's continue on with a nice pick. We're going to get in between this clip area here and lift it up and out. Go ahead and grab onto the flex hose and remove it. There it is, friends. Okay friends, now it's going to be time to install our brand new flex hose. On this side right here, you can tell that we have the threaded area. That's going to go onto your line. You're also going to notice that this area right along this little horseshoe clamp is kind of oblong. It has like a smooth area, almost rounded, and then it has some pointy areas. You want to make sure that that lines up with the bracket that's on your differential. I'm just going to slide this right through the differential tube here, line it up with where it needs to be. Sometimes you just have to twist it a little bit until it lines up. Perfect. Now, of course, I'm going to start my line in while this is still nice and loose so I can wiggle it around. Now it's going to be time to put on our brake line clip here. You're going to notice one side has the little flippy-doos that face out. You want that to be facing towards the differential in the center there. Go ahead and line this up with the slot on here, and then we'll just go ahead and push it down. Perfect. Now we're just going to go ahead and hold on to that flex hose so there's no way that it can spin, and then we'll continue tightening up the line to the flex hose. Okay, bottomed out. Give it just a teeny bit more. We want to definitely ensure that there's no way that this is going to leak. Now it's going to be time to put on our banjo bolt and of course our crush washers. You want to make sure you have a brand new one on the banjo bolt as this one is. Let's go ahead and put that onto the line. And now let's put our other one on the banjo bolt after the line. And then we'll put this right up to the caliper. Just pay attention to the way that I have this right here. I have the banjo bolt on the area of the flex hose that has the cutout. Let's go ahead and line this up, start it in, and then we'll snug it up. Okay, so I got that bottomed out now. Now something that you want to think about is that you should torque this to 33 foot-pounds. Obviously, there isn't very much room in between here to get a socket and a torque wrench on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this wrench just like this, and then I'll give it a little bit more of a turn. Essentially what we need to do is make sure that we crush down these crush gaskets just a little bit. You want to make sure that they're making perfect contact between the caliper and the hose and the banjo bolt. Give it a nice wiggle to ensure it's tight. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is go ahead and gravity bleed our system over here. The way I'm going to do that is open up this bleeder screw. We'll give it a couple turns, leave it nice and loose, and we're going to wait until we see some nice clear brake fluid coming out of there. Now that we have a nice steady stream of brake fluid, let's go ahead and close this up, and then we'll prepare for our manual brake bleed. Now the next thing we want to do is take a peek under the hood. We're going to come right over here to the master cylinder and make sure that it's full. If it's low, you need to of course add to it. And when you add, double check and make sure you use .3 brake fluid. Okay, so now that we have this gravity bled, the next thing we need to do is our manual bleed like I said before. For this, it's going to be easiest with two people. We're going to need a second person up inside the truck. Essentially what we're going to have them do is go ahead and pump up the brake 3 to 5 times. Once it feels as though it's semi-firm, we're going to have them hold on to it, and then I'm going to open up this bleeder screw. As you open it, you're going to see the fluid come shooting out of this, and of course a little bit of air bubbles at the same time. So be very careful for your eyes. Make sure you're wearing hand and eye protection. We're going to do this several times until we see a steady flow of fluid coming out of this bleeder screw without any air. Let's get started. So here we go. We're clear to pump. Okay, so now that he's holding, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. We'll open it up. Be careful for any fluid coming out. Make sure that goes into a nice collection bucket, of course. I'm watching right here to make sure I don't see any air bubbles. I did see some air bubbles, so I'm going to go ahead and close this, and we're going to repump. Go ahead and pump. Let's do it again, nice and slow. So that one looked mostly good. I just got one little air bubble out of it, so let's do it again until we get no more air. Okay, so that last one looked good. Now the next thing I want to do is just go to every other wheel and just bleed them all out as well. I just essentially want to make sure that there's no air in the braking system. Let's go ahead and clean this down and put on our rubber cap. Perfect. Let's go ahead and get the wheel up on here, hopefully. Start on all of our lug nuts, we'll snug them up, and then we'll get it on the ground and torque them to 100 foot-pounds. Torqued. Of course, if you have your lug nut covers, let's go ahead and make sure we put those on as well. There we are. Now all you have left to do is go ahead and pump up the brake pedal, check your master cylinder for your brake fluid, and of course, take it for a road test.